Call to order the village board meeting at the Lisbon Village Hall on Wednesday, June 14th, 2023 at 6:33 PM. Roll call, please.
President Osterman,
Here.
trustee Plochecker,
Here.
trustee Moonen,
Here.
trustee Quinn,
Here.
trustee Beal,
Here.
administrator Nicholas there. We've got interim fire chief Michelle Drager present and in the audience, and clerk Elise Picasso Ketch to record the minutes.
Thank you. We'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item 3 is comments from citizens present. Does anyone have anything they wish to discuss tonight? Please step up to the mic, state your name and address if you do. If this is citizens' comments, you have an agenda item, so you can wait till yours, or you can speak now. It's up to you. But anyone else wish to speak? Anyone on Zoom?
No, President Osterman.
All right. Item 4 is then the consent agenda. Items listed under the consent agenda are considered in one motion unless the village board member requested an item be removed. We have the May 10th, 2023 village board minutes. To reappoint Joseph Hoffman to the Fire Commission for a 5-year term ending on 5/15/2028. And then we have item C is appoint Kathy Nicholas and Orrin Sumwalt as Lisbon zoning administrators. D is award bid for 2023 crack filling program to Fronter Asphalt for the amount of $50,642. E is award a bid for Great Memorial plants and installation to Johnson's Nursery for the amount of $2,621.05. Item F is approving a 3-lot CSM for the Schlafer property at LSBT 0166.999.002. And then we have item G is the extraterritorial CSM approval for Reinders property, MRTT 0335.998. Item H is approved the annual mobile home park license for American Mobile Home Communities. And I is approved the grinder pump tank replacement by Secured Pump, the amount of $6,365. Go ahead.
Yeah, number E, Joe, the bid number on there is not correct. It's gonna be closer to $3,400, but we don't know what the exact amount that the festival offset that. So we were told that Anna Grayton would be making up the difference for that, but we don't know what the difference is yet. So I think maybe we need to remove that until we have some more solid numbers.
Okay. So we'll pull E for the moment.
Yeah.
Why was it increased? Can I
And
ask?
then
Because the original bid didn't have installation in it.
But it did according to. Okay,
And then I'm gonna move item C down to new business. It'll be just before A. So I'm gonna pull C also. All right, does anyone wish to remove anything else?
Okay, thank you.
Or is there a motion on the remaining consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda, removing C and E.
Okay, moved by Becky. Is there a second?
I'll second. Nope.
All right, second by Linda.
Mhm.
All right, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? She carries 5-0. All right, and then you want to make a motion to table item E?
Yes, please.
Motion moved by Paul to table item E. Is there a second?
my second.
Second by Becky on that one. No discussion on the table. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 5-0. And then we're just moving item C down to new business, so we'll get to that one again a little later on. All right, item 5, accounts payable. A, authorizing the payment of the Falls Auto Parts bill dated 5/25 for the amount of $31.63. And the 6/15 check register for $283.98. Any discussion or is there a motion on that?
I'll move we approve the payment to Falls Auto Parts.
By Becky, is there a second? Second by Mark. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Item B, authorizing the payment of the remaining bills dated 5/25 for the amount of $364,150.59. And the 6/15 bills for $413,100.58.
Our top five expenses for May were $142,191.72. $82,461.27 for the bank for $71,990.67 for the treasurer, county treasurer, $12,668 on the income tax, $4,949.45 for gas. Top five expenses for Ruben is $148,188 for Mike Plumbing Construction, $79,378.82 for Deer and Company, $38,705.22 for Deer Building Inspection, $33,432.30 for company engineering, and $13,670.75 for half year.
Any questions or comments? Or is there a motion on the check register? The two check registers.
I'll make a motion, we accept both, or we approve both check registers as presented.
Is there a second?
I second.
Mark. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. We have authorizing the payment of the utility district bills dated 6/7 for the amount of $55,880.43.
We have for the village of Sussex, $25,929.56. And the other large expense was Bella for $18,985 for maintenance. I have to.
Any questions or comments? Is there a motion on the utility district bills?
I'll make a motion to authorize payment of the utility district bills dated 6/7 for $55,880.43.
Motion by Paula. Is there a second?
I second.
Give it to Linda. Any final discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item 6 is announcements and correspondence. We had the Public Works and Utility Committee meeting on Wednesday, the 28th at 5 PM at the Richard Young Fire Station. We have a joint public hearings and plan commission meeting then also on Wednesday, the 28th, starting at 6:30 at the Richard Young Fire Station. We have a Parks Committee meeting on Wednesday, July 12th at 5 PM here at the Village Hall. And then the next village board meeting is also July 12th at 6:30 here at the Village Hall. Does anyone else have any other announcements or correspondence to note?
I did just want to note that the public hearings on June 28th are joint public hearings, so we do need a third village board member to be present to have a quorum. So if one of you who are not on plan commission could let us know if you are available, it would be appreciated. We have a board review. We do, it is on the 22nd of June, correct. Mhm.
Okay. Anyone have anything else? Thank you. Item 7 is administrator report.
Okay, one clerk is working on creating our backlog email addresses. We did that last year, but we waited until after the last election. Making that terminal. We'll be keeping your current ones during the transition for about a year. They're expected to make that change on the 27th of June. Jasmine and Jasmine and Lisa have started a project of going over every part of the website, updating anything referring that refers to the town government, including that forms. There's on a project with oversight. All paving has been done in business parking except for a piece on the east side of Townland Road where the energy needs to move a pole. I wrote the RFP for compensation and salary study or benefit study, which we're going to talk about today. Easement for the water and sewer for the energy. Both those easements have been signed by the property owners and business partners. We started our project with municipal code. all ordinances and code has been sent out and they're taking from Found Village. We will need to sign a new CDBG cooperative agreement. We signed it last year as a town. Now that we're going to need to sign it once I get that up on the agenda. Pump set Richard Young Fire Station Network. In September, I'm gonna be on a mission trip during the village board meeting. If you want to consider moving the meeting or. So, open book itself, with the frequent numbers, we have increased our values of 57 million, even with the 14 million lost from the cooperative boundary. So, new order agreement is scheduled for June 22nd. We'll do a final update on what the increase was after that. Not class report is attached. We have 6 that have been completed. 1 is in citation, 1 is waiting probate and foreclosure, and 4 properties are in the May report. The clerk set up open book, Zoom meetings, village board meetings, packets and agendas. Process 35 dog license, 229 conflict by 4 parking violations, 12 park appropriations, and 14 letters of assessment. Private department completed their 2023 budget pickup, prepared gravel base for the basketball court in Lisbon Oaks, the dead trees along Woodside Road and North Lisbon Road. The Parks Division maintained all baseball fields and soccer drills. Started steady mowing patterns for the warm weather. Planted a couple of memorial trees, installed flags. Started seasonal help on a regular task and asphalt was done on the basketball for the expected to provide. As the sit for 30 days. Then DPW wrote the crack bill RFP, which I am considering awarding tonight. And this is changed from us paying our engineers to write it, and so that will save us some money. Attending pre-con meeting with Wolf Paving for our road project for the Highway 174 project. Participated in a webinar on road ratings and maintenance. Air had 5 fire calls, 47 medical calls, 9 TLS, 16 inter-facility transport, 7 vehicle accidents. We received mutual aid 2 times and gave mutual aid from the second. Sheriff had 100 traffic stops made, 51 citations, 49 verbal warnings, 12 written warnings. Assisted fire EMS 49 times, and did 91 building deaths at 53,921 payments. That is my report.
Any questions for Kathy?
I don't know if this is the right time to bring it up, but we've never heard anything about those traffic things they're putting up on 164 and Town Line Road.
So I heard, and I did hear one. So we're still waiting to have a second one put up. And we will get from the sheriff, we'll get the reports to see what they can do.
When did we start paying them?
Upstairs.
What's the delay for, Kathy?
Just putting them. Getting them in.
Okay. Okay,
It's permitting on state,
I'm sorry, what?
permitting on state highway,
Oh,
the county project.
thank you.
Any other questions for Kathy? Thank you, Kathy. All right. Item 8, unfinished business. A, discussion and necessary action regarding TID1 financing options for final infrastructure. John?
John can. Walk us through the
Good evening, everybody. John Cameron with Ellers. I was here before you almost a year ago, as you were starting the planning process for the final phase of infrastructure work within tax incremental finance district number 1. But really, at that time, we talked about 2 different options for funding that infrastructure improvements. One would be borrowing. The other would be using unassigned fund balance to be able to fund the project. So doing an internal transfer of funds and then over time using the tax increment district tax increment within the district to pay that advance back. At the time, the preference of the board was to use internal fund balance. But we were asked to come back before you this evening and just update the analysis based on where current interest rates are, from a borrowing perspective, and then also to talk a little bit about where interest rates are in terms of investments and the investment of funds. So you've got a 2-page handouts, just a front and back fold out page. The first page at the top says cash flow projection, total anticipated development. And the other side is the fund balance using the internal fund balance option. So the first option, when we look at from a borrowing perspective, what would be required if the village would borrow the funds is to start as a taxable financing and then refinance that debt possibly as tax exempt. Really, when you get past the point of needing to exercise any sort of pilot type payments with the land developers within tax incremental finance district number 1. So what we had contemplated last year was starting off with a state trust fund loan, which has gone up 100 basis points since last time we had an interest rate of 4.5%. It is now at 5.5%. That's the current rate, regardless if you borrow for a year or 20 years. So 5.5% is the current rate for a state trust fund loan, and then refinancing it on a tax exempt standpoint in roughly 2028. Right now, for a longer term debt obligation market, interest rates for a credit as good as the village is just under 4% for something longer than say 10 years. We just had 2 bond sales today that came in, or note sales today, so 10-year notes that came in right around 3.4%, and both were very comparable credits to where the village is. So just preliminarily putting in a placeholder of 4%. Would take the tax incremental finance district in terms of a projected closure date out through 2038. So about 2 years earlier than its maximum lifespan. If you flip to this next page, just flip it upside down. And we look at using internal fund balance, so advancing approximately just over $2.1 million from unrestricted fund balance to the tax incremental finance district. When we look at that, and you're fortunate that you have your 2022 audit done, so kudos to you, because not every municipality we work with is in that position. But in terms of looking at that fund balance advance, right now at the end of 22, you had approximately $4.8 million in your unassigned fund balance. Drawing that down by approximately $2.1 million would leave you at 2.7 million approximately of remaining unassigned fund balance, which when you look at it as a percentage of your total revenues is about 42% of total revenues. As Moody's looks at this from a scorecard perspective, that would put you just into the AAA category still. So you're well into that category right now in terms of fund balance. You would still remain in that barely. Right now, the threshold is anything below 40 or 40% or above would be in the AAA category. So that would put you just there. So I think still kind of the safe option, if you so chose to use that fund balance, is to do so. I know that money has preliminarily been set aside last December, so it is there and there for the using within the tax incremental finance district. The one thing that we don't show in this analysis from the fund balance side is assigning an interest rate to that. If the general fund is going to advance money to the tax increment district, it is appropriate, if you so choose to assign an interest rate with that. Right now, the LGIP, the local government investment pool, is at 5%, which is actually, we're getting back to like real money. For many, many years, it was, you might as well put it in under your mattress. So, looking at a 5% interest rate factor is not out of the realm of possibility. What I would say though, if you look at the analysis and you look at the far right-hand side in terms of the balance section, right now, the tax increment district has a negative fund balance, which is not uncommon for tax incremental finance districts. We're not showing that that's going to start to reverse itself until 2026. if you were to immediately start charging interest against the tax increment district, you would remain in the negative. So, it's likely that you'll have an interest, it'll accrue, but it'll be probably towards the back end of, the repayment of the advance that you'll start to pay yourself back some interest on top of that. So I think that is an appropriate thing, but really it's going to have to be something that, as we go through and we do the annual reporting process and we update the cash flow analysis, I think we can work with village staff to kind of keep an eye on that. You've got obviously your auditor coming in on an annual basis as well. And I think really start to look at, at what point can we start to actually, recover some of that interest expense if that's what you choose to do. So preliminarily, 2036 in this case with no interest charge would be the closing date. Charging interest would obviously push that back a little bit, but it would repay the general fund appropriately. So that's kind of your range of options. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions from the board? I mean, looking at where LGIP is right now at 5%, if we could get a loan at 3.4. I mean,
If you could, but you can't. We wouldn't be able to do that right now.
where'd you say we thought it was gonna be at?
5.5% is where state trust fund is right now.
What about the general?
About 3.5–4%. But we'd have to, because you've got those guaranteed pilot payments, which are very important to the security of that tax increment
Right.
district. We'd likely have to start this as a taxable financing and then refinance it. So you'd be taking out debt at a higher interest rate than where you're earning at the LGIP.
So your thoughts are that are you suggesting that we not do a tax?
Taxable borrowing. Yeah. I think you're still safe to move forward with internal fund balance if that's what you choose to do.
Is that suggesting that or not consider?
No, I think it's appropriate to consider it, but you would have to likely accrue that interest and delay payment probably towards roughly the 2030-ish time period. Really where you start to get to a point where you're starting to put away some heftier amounts of annual fund balance in that TID.
What would your thoughts be on the suggestion?
I think tying it to the LGIP and where it is right now is appropriate. I mean, I understand too, the question, if this was all tax exempt and we're earning 5%, but we can go out and borrow at 3.4% roughly. Or even at 4%, why wouldn't we do that? But I think the issue is that we likely are going to have to start this as a taxable and then see, if development were to lag and you continue to need to exercise these pilot payments in the tax increment district, you really wouldn't have the ability to refinance that debt on a tax exempt basis until you were done with those pilot payments. That's the advice that Quarles and Brady, which is the village's bond counsel, provided last year when we looked at this initially. And they looked at all the agreements.
So you said it would push the end date back. How far do you think that would go?
It might go back to about 2038, about the same time period as the other district, or the other scenario, 2037, 2038. But it would still leave your fund balance in a pretty healthy position.
There's no way to split off. Like what we know is coming from the pilot program. Versus what
And you
the
just
rest
kind
of
of
the TIF is.
do a hybrid, borrow for some and use fund balance for some, you certainly could. But in terms of splitting off and going right to a tax exempt financing for that portion of it,
That can't handle total
I
pilots.
don't think so, but we could check with Quarles and Brady and see if that's a
I
possibility.
mean, like the village, if it fronted the money for what's expected from the pilots. versus,
Yeah,
and then do a non-taxable bond on the rest at 3.4. Or 3 whatever it is, 3.4,
Yeah.
3.56. Looks like the Fed held off raising rates today. so-
it did, yeah. So, just to give you a sense, 20-year money right now, at kind of the AA level is about 3.8%. We've had several bond sales that have come in right about 3.7, 3.8%. 10 years, we're right around 3.4 is what we've seen. We just had two yesterday, or two today rather, for two AA rated municipalities at 10 years, and both came in almost right on top of each other at about 3.4. So that's certainly something we could ask Quarles. And just see what's, if that's a possibility, and that would preserve some cash and allow you to earn that,
Get that
5%.
extra-
Yeah,
Yeah, but I think that's gonna go up. It looks like they're talking 2 more rate hikes before the end of the year.
Yeah.
Money's getting expensive.
it is.
I knew it was coming.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
How does the board feel about that?
Well, we're still in a position to save money on interest as far as it's what, 400,000? I think I added it
Between the,
up between the two options.
yeah, you're still in a position to save money. You're also saving issuance related expenses by starting with a taxable debt issue and then refunding it. You've got it, upfront issuance expenses with those transactions. Doing from internal fund balance, don't have any of that. So, that also factors into that difference between the two scenarios.
Yeah, I guess borrowing twice, that would really raise that.
Yeah.
If there was a way to,
If there was a way to
Split it
go
out.
straight to the issuance of tax exempt debt, then
yeah,
that would be a more advantageous position for the village. So, just village rolls right off the tongue too.
it's starting to.
Yeah.
I didn't hesitate today. I thought I was gonna be throwing.
It's getting easier for me to say it.
I guess, yeah, my only caution to the board is if we have to borrow for some unexpected reason, we're only in a 3% position on our general fund. Before we lose them. Our bond level.
Well, knocking it down to the AA is really where the village is right now. So, your fund balance is one of the strengths, and it's one of the strengths that Moody's has pointed out. So, would they continue to rate it as such? Likely, yeah, because that's how it scores in their scorecard. But you're right, if you have another unexpected expense that would bring you below 40% and into the AA category, they might look somewhat negatively on that. But at least in this case of the tax increment district, you've got a repayment plan that could start as early as next year, depending on, the pilot payment is coming in, which we think that that we're showing that it will be needed, so. But it doesn't leave you with a lot of cushion before you drop below that 40% threshold,
How much of a cushion?
about 2%. So we could float that by Quarles to see, is there a way that we could do some of this on a tax exempt basis? And see what their thoughts are and come back to.
Yeah,
the-
if there's a way we
come
can
back to the
fund
board
the
with that.
taxable portion. then
Yeah. No, I understand what you're saying.
the Board okay with that?
Yeah,
Exploring?
I don't foresee any general fund dips right now, but I guess we could consider it if we have to borrow versus funding it ourselves again. I still think the internal fund balance options. With those exceptions.
Yeah, going from your 21 audit to your 22 audit, your unassigned fund balance grew. So you didn't get weaker, which is a good thing, so it's grown a little bit. So you've got, you're in a good position. So you have the ability to do this, and you had the ability to do it last year, when we first looked at it as well. So it's only strengthened since then. So kudos to the board and to staff for continued positive financial results.
Like the federal government, we keep the credit card in the safe.
Absolutely.
All right.
All right, so we didn't go.
We'll coordinate with Quarles and we'll come back in July and provide an update.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Everybody good? Any more questions?
No, no, we're good.
Thank
Okay.
you, John.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
All right, item B is discussion and necessary action regarding draft RFP for proposed compensation and benefit study.
Talked about this, two months back about compensation study. And, I put together an RFP for that, you're ready to move on it. One of the things I did need, some discussion on is the timeline. So that's on page 3. I did, put in the timeline that I will, the RFP, whatever direction. Today, we can get it out on the 16th and then, have our submissions and so on, award the contract in August. And ask for a completion of the work December 4th. And present to the board on December 15th. And we do our budget in August, September, we start opening our budget solidly. Is this something that you want to consider for 2024? To have this done, or look at what the study does in December and make any changes that you might want to make in first quarter. 2024. If there are. This timing,
Yes, knowing how these things go, I would be realistic to say it's not gonna happen for 2024.
so we could have it in 20.
Yeah,
In 20.
right. Yeah, and I guess what I'm saying is to get it in the last half month of December, and then we have one meeting to talk about it, to make a final decision.
Right.
Yeah.
But if we, my big concern is we put this RFP out and say that we're gonna want the study done in 2024 instead of do it this year in 2025. 2023, and have it prepared, even though it's not really gonna be helpful for our focus. For 24, we would have it to review 24 if you want to do any mid-year changes. Or just use it for 25. Do you want me to go forward right away, get it out and go, or you want me to wait?
Right.
And let it be done in 24?
I think ideally it would have been nice to have it done this year, but
Right,
It's not
I guess I don't know how quickly I mean, I don't wanna lose people that are doing quality work just because they have quality work on their plate. I suppose we couldn't bid it both ways. So
We could put,
can we bid it both ways and then just not act on one of the packages?
well, I can talk to Mason.
Yeah,
You mean doing it once in 23 and once in 24?
no, just put out RFP for enacting in 23, and then put out a similar one, just change the date to 24.
we only pick one.
I mean, we only act.
But if, the idea is, if we make this a quick turnaround, people, and we saw that when we were doing paving, that we didn't get a lot of bids then because they're
Already.
booked out for this year. And so we could get it for the 2024 one, maybe they would, we get more bids on it before they could be filling this before.
And may also give us an idea of pricing.
Does it cost us money to do that? Didn't think so, but
I mean, it would be identical except for the fact that a date.
Do we have any changes in the RFP that you like change?
I don't think so. Not from my end. Anything from anyone else?
No, they're pretty
I
thorough.
did have a question on the village resources. Page 3, it says the village will provide copies of all current pay, job classifications, and any other available information requested by the selected consultant. Is that overburdening on our staff?
There's no doubt that this is gonna take some time to do, but it's.
I guess one thing I thought of with the 2 dates is that, I mean, that could be a lot of homework for our office staff. And then now we're pushing them against the wall.
We don't have, if it were to be done in 23, we don't have. We're already working on.
This would-
jobs. We can't be done.
The request for this information would probably be coming exactly at the time we're doing our budgeting. That could be burdensome. I mean, if we're putting it out both ways, I mean, that's. Take a look.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second? I'll second. Discussion? Any last discussion on this? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item C, discussion necessary action regarding paid on premise part-time fire department staffing. All right. Michelle is here, and this is something. It's probably been a long time coming. Everybody needs to buckle up for this one.
All right. So good evening. Thank you for taking the time to talk about the subject this evening. I'm aware that you have previously discussed the topic of paid on-premise positions for the fire department. The models drafts that you were given are based on part-time staffing for the fire department. Before I explain a little bit more about the sheets, I want to briefly touch on the part-time staffing definition or usage. You have heard the term paid on premise, and some of you have heard the term paid on premise for many years, actually. A while ago, departments that were transitioning from a paid on call type department to more of an in-house staffing used the term paid on premise. A lot of these transition programs were based on the employee receiving a certain amount per hour to be on premise, and then they would bump up to a certain pay or stipend to go on calls or do work performed. Most departments in the county are past the point of these types of programs and utilize part-time employees to supplement any full-time positions they have. That is why my current drafts include part-time verbiage. So if you take a look at the spreadsheets that you were given for the part-time staffing, at the top of the first sheet, we look at the current full-time staff. I do apologize at the time that I made this spreadsheet. We did have 3 unfilled full-time and 3 filled. 2 of those unfilled have now been filled. So the current full-time staffing has 7 full-time positions. I am staffed Monday through Friday in the office during the week, and the other full-time staff rotate on 24-hour shifts. This means during the week, it's myself and 2 other full-time staff, and on nights and weekends, it is a full-time staff with a paid on-call staff. Looking at the full-time staff ties in significantly with the draft model below because it's based on having 5 staffed individuals in-house 24/7. These models include full-time staff along with part-time staff to have a solid rotation of 5 in-house members 24/7. The models show a 1-week example between the daytime and the night weekend schedules. Further down on the sheet are the numbers needed to get to the staffing model in addition to the current full-time staff. These numbers are all based on $17 an hour. And I've also included a proposed hourly rate section below for 3 different licensure levels for part-time staffing. The second sheet is basically the same with the additional numbers needed based on $20 an hour. The money per hour will make a little more sense when we look at the 4th page. The 3rd page of this small packet that you were given pertains more to item 9E on the agenda for tonight, so that can be skipped to a little bit later. So the 4th page shows data I obtained from surrounding departments on what they currently have for part-time staffing. All these departments have different things in place, but I did my best to compare at least 3 different hourly rates for different license levels, which are firefighter EMT, firefighter advanced EMT, and firefighter paramedic. These are also the 3 levels that I have proposed hourly rates for. On the sheet, there are also notes under each department and what other benefits they may offer their employees. That's kind of what I have of what I put together of all the drafts.
So the big number everybody's gonna look at is that 443,000 for the $17 an hour and 521,000 for the $20 an hour. Which is obviously quite a bit of money.
So the reason I asked, so because it might not have one, the other thing. When you took a look at the, what other municipalities are doing. I think to go through this whole process and still be, with a rate lower than our surrounding communities. The whole idea is to keep people on staff. And that's the reason I did. So that's why I'm good.
And most of the other departments are paying their paramedics around 20 some dollars an hour, so, which is what that's based off of.
So obviously, everybody's facing staffing shortages. We are no way, shape, or form immune to that. We've talked about this for decades.
Long time.
The move that we did, and I pushed this move, was to add full-time staff. That was when Doug and I would go at things and talk about things, was we needed to add as much full-time staff as we could because that was the future. So we'd add a half position, a full position. I mean, we just kept adding to those positions. Well, now it's to the point where it's tough to keep those positions because we're not the top dog. We're not paying these wages, and we can't at this point. We just can't. And even if we did, there's no guarantee that they all stay. But this is a way to help hopefully retain some of that paid on call and keep people in the firehouse. I think we all know, I think most of us have been following this shared revenue that's gonna be coming back from the state. Just gonna throw that at Kathy, she's not there at the moment, but I don't know what that's gonna be. I mean, preliminary was around 200 some thousand. I don't know where it's gonna be now though. Wait, see if she heard anything when she walks back in. What's everybody's initial thoughts, feelings? Nothing came flying this way, so hopefully it's not too bad. Linda,
I know you're looking at me.
well, you're looking at me, so you get the first one. You did the eye contact.
Yeah,
You're the-
well, I'm not afraid to speak up,
Yeah.
that's fine. Because I did talk with Kathy about this too, because when I saw this, I thought, whoa, look at this big increase. And I'm concerned about us becoming a town to a village. Because of that, it has nothing to do with it. I know that, but it's going to be perceived as such. And I just think I agree, it needs some work. There's no doubt about it. We need to get more employees, but I just have a problem with the big amount, you know. And I talked to Kathy and she was saying about some ARPA funds and some, you know, with that, the revenue coming in and stuff, but it still sets us high and dry for 26 and 27. So I'm concerned about that.
So. Some of the saving grace with obviously is the shared revenue portion is, we need to know what that's gonna be. I had hoped we were gonna have that number tonight. The reason this got delayed from last month to this month was because I thought the legislature was actually gonna make some positive
Right.
progress, and they did, but we just don't know what it is. We also do have ARPA funds this year, but we also have been making considerable money on our interest. I mean, I think we made our entire interest budget in the first month, maybe month and a half.
Mhm.
So everything we're making on top of that is gonna be in addition. I mean, our interest numbers are phenomenal. Which will help pay for some of this.
Well, that wouldn't fully offset it though, would it?
This year it would.
Yeah.
It would more than offset it this year.
Yeah, the problem we have is 26 when we
Yeah.
start paying the whole thing.
Well, it depends what interest rates
Yeah, yeah.
and where things are. I mean, it's making up 200,000 isn't as big a deal as making up 400,000, obviously.
Right.
Kathy, do you know where any preliminary estimates at all on what kind of shared revenue we might be looking at?
For each one, we were at like 207,000 more. Out of the whole. We still have things. So I don't have the drop to 50,000. It's gonna stay at 50,000.
When do you think it will be known? But when in anticipation, I mean, do they say, hey, it's gonna be August, it's gonna be, because I think maybe we don't, I don't know, I think we should wait until we find out what that is. Because otherwise we might be in a big bit of trouble.
So the
Financial.
rest of this year, this isn't the number for the rest of the year.
Oh, I know,
Right? I mean, we're halfway into the year already.
right. But this is, Kathy, when I talked to Kathy, this is in addition there too, to what we have going on for now.
Yeah.
This is
all,
in addition.
this is above the ceiling.
I know.
tax.
I know. Is there any, what would that say in today's market? What increase would that be per household?
Well, we don't know because we don't know with interest and everything else.
Right,
I mean, if you were taking the entire amount, I mean, that's gonna be. I'm just thinking back to when we added on to the fire department or the police, we added a person,
yeah,
it was around $75 a year on a $200,000 home, I think.
right,
But now we're talking. Numbers have significantly changed. I mean, I don't know where we're at.
right,
yet.
right.
We can figure it out.
We have, a little over $900,000. So if we were to use ARPA money, then that was, and then use ARPA money and our increased fair rev for the next 2 years.
So it'd be no impact to the taxpayer at all. on that.
That would- and I can-
But then we are using the ARPA money at that point. But then we're not using any of that interest that we're getting either. I mean, we are getting significant money on interest. It's very. The way treasurer worked with these LGIP accounts and everything else, I mean, it's significant.
Yeah,
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be on the other end. Been there.
is there a way that this can be scaled down a little bit? So it won't be so dramatic? The cost increase?
I mean, I can try and play with numbers a little bit more. The thought of having 5 around the clock is we can guarantee an ambulance with 2 for sure and put 3 on the engine and then move them if needed. If it's more of a fire call, put 4 on the engine, 1 person takes the ambulance. But if we transport a patient, we might have to have 2 or 3 in an ambulance. So it's kind of really at a good minimum in-house standard we want to start at. And you saw the numbers too, compared to around the county. I mean, the proposed one that I have is less than what a lot of the county is doing itself. I mean, I could try and play with other examples if you,
This is
Like
assuming we
CNA.
can actually fill these positions though, too.
yes.
This number is assuming it was always filled, which is probably unlikely.
Probably unlikely. We might have to try and get some others in-house. We've lost a lot of our paid on-call membership to the departments that constantly staff. So we might have to try and get some others in as well, get up to that staffing point.
And does that bring that we increase the wages of the people working now up to this? If we go the 17 or the 20 or?
Well, this is the different, so this is just the paid on premise end
Right,
of it. So all
right,
these other departments have been doing this.
right, oh, I
We're
know that,
behind. So we gotta try and get them back, but it doesn't change the normal, the daily full-time equivalents that we have. It doesn't really change, it doesn't change that.
Yeah.
but is that also included in all the extra equipment and stuff that we need? To address, them in with the appropriate agreement? Do we have all the equipment for everybody to do all of this?
We have equipment, we just need more bodies. and
We have
bodies
all
to
the equipment.
stay.
So you won't come back in a year saying we need more equipment and this and
Oh.
that?
Well, they'll be asking for replacement equipment, but not more equipment.
Well, that's,
Yeah.
yeah. Or a new fire truck? Another.
Well, there's schedules for that.
The ability. Yeah, the ARPA money, we're gonna start it on that shared route and the rate. We haven't seen it before, where we were able to even consider something right now. Actually, also could get a service to us. That's how it's.
Right, you did. And you also,
think that maybe get there.
and that revenue money it can only be used for the fire and or the police department.
Well, and there's, obviously, the money is a very important part of this, but so is public safety, so I
Well,
think,
sure.
so. And I'm leaning,
On page 3, what is the full-time staffing numbers? What are the four different these boxes trying to illustrate?
That's gonna be more talked about during like 9E. That's gonna be talked about during like 9E of tonight's agenda. When we talk about like the assistant fire chief position, which is why I mentioned we could just skip that, like the 3rd page for now. So the reason why I explained before, 2 of the 3 unfilled spots have been filled is because that 3rd position, I want to turn it back into what it was, what we had prior to our prior fire chief retiring. We had 2 administrative chiefs Monday through Friday, and the others were rotating. I really think the department needs to go back to having a strong administration like that, rather than having that other position rotating. I really need another person Monday through Friday in the office with me. That gives somebody there to be there when I can't be there for whatever reason, and so I can take vacation. And there's somebody there that also puts somebody in the place in between myself and Deputy Chief Jeff Drager that people can go to with concerns. So it's not adding a position, it's basically just reclassifying that position to what it used to be. Mhm. Yep, so I have, the first one is what is currently in the budget for 2023 for those 3 positions before they left. And if you look at the next 3 models on the 3rd page, it's just different ways for an administrative Monday through Friday chief with the new hires. And all 3 of these come in under what's currently in the budget. And again, that's for the budget for the whole year, and we're 6 months in or so for the year, so, but everything is currently under.
Anybody have any questions on? And that's 9E, so it's coming
Mhm.
up. We have another whole agenda item for that, but that's the. Becky, what are your thoughts?
We have been talking about this for forever. And if it's going to help keep people, then I think we need to do it. Or help get more people in.
I think it'll help do both. I do. I think it'll help keep people and it'll help bring in people to be here.
Because it looks like everybody else already does this, right?
They do,
Yeah.
yeah. A lot of other departments do.
So I know it's a lot of money, but you know, you have to keep moving forward. So I'm in favor of the $17 an hour.
I'd be in favor of 17.
You good with that one?
I hesitate. Only reason I hesitate because of the amount of money. Tremendously, but I do feel we need safety in the village. That's,
Paula?
um,
And you don't have to choose 17 or 20. I mean, you can say nothing. I mean, it's just a
Mhm.
matter of, these are the options we have that was presented, but I mean.
yeah, I'm definitely in favor of doing it. I think the money is negotiable. We'd have to see where things, again, where the share revenue comes in and see what it would really look like.
Mark?
Are we considering this separate from, I know we just started into
This
the
is,
9E.
this would be the premise.
We're not discussing both of them.
We can. It's technically agendized separately, but I mean, we've already kind of broached that, so we can.
I'm fine with the part-time staffing assistants. It doesn't matter, if it's 17 or 20. I keep going back, and now I'm talking about 90. I just keep going back to last year when we were talking about we need firefighters. Now we're talking about adding another administrator. I guess I'd like to see more information on why we need to. Then we would have. Chief, or interim chief, assistant fire chief, and deputy chief.
So me and the assistant chief would be full-time Monday through Friday. All the other chiefs or officers on the department, except Lieutenant Carnes, are full-time. All of them are nights and weekends type people. So I don't have another office person with me right now, Monday through Friday. So the other full-timers do pick up tasks and they do stuff, but it's very hard when they're not consistently there every day of the week, especially work on certain projects. Because they could be there Monday and then gone the whole rest of the week. So we really need to strengthen up the administration of the department. And all I'm asking is just to put it back to when it was basically myself and Chief Rom as administrators during the week. I just want to take that other position and turn it back into an administrative position. So it's the same as what it was.
So
And-
did we have a chief, assistant chief, and deputy chief then?
All the other chiefs were night and weekend, like
Like, what was-
salaried.
When you're saying going back to that, what was the structure then?
It was different at different times. We had a chief, assistant chief, 2 deputy chiefs. For the most part, and then those underneath it. Correct. I was deputy chief, yes.
So. But you mentioned that, you had mentioned that you needed more bodies on the fire trucks. So this still gives you first degree advantage. We're talking about a fire. Somebody that is certified in fire. So you still would be increasing. Somebody that you put on the truck for the ambulance, but we have that person mainly working on administrative stuff and then that.
Just a question on that. If the one below you, I get another one below you between Jeff and yourself. Do you necessarily have to have, I know it was talked about before, hiring a person in the office to do a lot of the paperwork without actually going out on a fire? Because then we'll be having in-house people as well. Do we need that extra, like that? Can't it be just be person you hire to help with the paperwork?
I feel like we need another chief at this time. I mean, that the person is gonna be a multi-use person, gonna run on calls, gonna help in the office, gonna work on personnel issues, gonna do disciplinary stuff with the personnel, gonna be that person in between myself and Deputy Chief Jeff Rager. I feel like we can cover all of that.
This proposal doesn't add dollars and cents, that one does. So if we were to keep the current as we are and hired that person, that's gonna cost more money. What this is it keeps the status quo of the money. It just changes positions, just so you know.
Okay.
It's correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's,
We brought in the fire that we did the same position and then we also put in an administrative position that just didn't do fire calls, it was not fire person. It was doing that kind of work, yes, it was process.
Yeah.
But now.
Oh.
Using the employee that we have, that can go out on fire calls as well as primary duty when they're not on a fire call.
Okay.
Then that's probably be, working in the office.
Okay.
40 hours.
it's moving positions that much.
Yeah.
Actually, this idea reduces, if you look at page 4, it actually reduces what we put in the budget this year. So this year we put in the budget $204,000, and this position is $187,000. It's still one.
But we lose a firefighters, you're right, but we're also gonna, if we can do the paid on premise, we're gonna try to pick up that other position.
Yeah.
So we had, 5 years ago, we had Doug and Michelle,
Mhm.
then Doug retired and we had Michelle, and we tried to get people to do Michelle's job
Right,
by committee. And to say this. It didn't work.
okay,
I mean, I'm not saying something that's not true, right? It just is
Yeah.
not working.
Yeah,
We do not have consistent people that can do some of those tasks.
I mean,
This
even
is
as
an
an,
attempt to get a person that can be consistent in that.
yeah, even as an example, of preparing this week for tonight, I mean, I was driving the engine, going, being on the ambulance the last 2 days because we've had multiple calls. So I mean. That on top of not having another person in the office is hard in itself.
so would there be extra expenses as far as training these people? Like a lot of times they go and we pay for it? Will, or they be already qualified?
For the part-time staff,
Mhm.
I mean, it's all gonna be everybody that we have in-house, and everybody that we bring on like normal, they might have to go to school, they might come in with licenses
Okay.
already.
Okay. Just off the record, if the
Nothing's off
people
the
that are
record.
leaving, do they owe us money?
Nothing's off the record.
Okay. that's not off the record. Do they owe us money
The
and they
ones
don't pay?
that take the paramedic program sign an agreement and they,
Right,
have
they're-
mostly been paying back.
They're supposed to be paid
Yeah.
back.
But some of the other levels are state funded, so.
Okay, okay. That answers the question. Thank you.
Mhm.
So. One of the questions that's gonna pop up is. In the current agreement we have with you. If you decided you did not want to keep. The chief's job. Or go after it, we promise we put you back in your old position. We are essentially hiring out that position right now, if we were to do this,
Mhm.
so. I guess I'm asking what your feelings are on it. I mean, there's, the only other option we have at that point is to demote the person we hire, let go of the person we hire. Or we lose you.
Mhm.
I mean, that's all it can be.
Mhm.
So I guess. Didn't really think about that until this moment, to be honest, but. What are your feelings on that?
If everything goes the way that we're proposing, I'm good with staying how I'm going and keep doing it.
Any other questions on that? I mean, it's,
Mhm. Good question.
Mhm.
um, I do think you need help. I mean. Doug was very successful, I think, in what he did, but he was successful in part because of who he had helping him. He'll be the first person to tell anybody that, he will.
And he will happy to hear this if we pass this off. He'll be excited.
And it's whether it's Doug and Michelle and whoever it's gonna be, or a new chief and a new deputy, I just wanna make sure we have the correct staff.
Mhm.
Now, Mark has made some good points in the past too about bringing up, how do we know what we need? The only thing I can say to that point is I know what did work before, and I know it isn't working now. I don't know if this is perfect. I don't wanna do a year-long study though, but I do wanna get you help, but I guess that's something, I mean, it's Mark's previous points have been valid. He has asked about different studies and such, and we're doing that other study right now too, and it's amazing how long those take. But, I mean, just getting the study done is gonna be 6 months. I mean, it's. I don't mean to speak for you, Mark, but I think I was trying to hit the points that you had previously.
I agree. I don't feel any different. I haven't heard anything that makes me feel any different. Cause I guess in my mind, why not make the deputy chief a full-time position? I mean, how many chiefs does our department? need?
We have 4 spots right now, 4 chiefs. I mean, we could, but again, I'm trying to put somebody in place in between myself and my husband, which has been a concern before in the past too. I mean, I myself was a deputy chief full-time. I got to that point. I mean, I started as a regular full-time firefighter paramedic, and I got those promotions as years went on and I became the full-time deputy chief. So I mean, it could go either way. I listed many different options. I listed an assistant chief, I listed a deputy chief, and I listed just the top pay option. Those are what those options are on that third sheet itself. In my mind, I envision a full-time assistant chief for the reasons that I stated tonight, but I did list the other options that are available if you thought that it should go a different way.
If because your husband's just below you, if he wasn't your husband, would he be stepping right into being more of a help for you in office work and stuff like that?
Everyone's situation is different. I mean, he himself has a different full-time job, so he's not able to come in and do it unless he'd want to come and be here full-time.
And that, in the position he's in now, I mean, he said he's got a full-time day job.
Yes.
This is- He does this outside of that, not just,
Okay,
so it's,
So I guess my question is still looming out there is we've never had an assistant fire chief? Right?
We have.
she
Dave
was,
Mason was our last assistant fire chief.
As a full-time position?
No, not as full-time.
So we never had a full-time assistant chief position, so. Let's say that we need
Not
this
that
position to support what we need, I can believe you, I just don't know that that's the case. I guess I haven't. Like, show me how, then I can get behind it. I'm just kind of like. Unfulfilled, in my mind, why don't we hire a deputy chief this full time? And convert a part-time position to a full-time position if we need that administrative help.
so right now Jeff is in that spot. What would you advocate with him then?
I don't know, I guess
oh,
that's,
So my thing would be, I'm not as much concerned with the name of the title as I am with the job description. And honest to God, I don't know.
right, and
The
that's
difference
what I'm
between
coming
bottom-
from, is that if we never had the position, we can't say we need the position. By title, but if we had a deputy chief that was full-time, why don't we hire a deputy chief that's full-time?
So that, I guess my short answer, and correct me if I'm wrong on that, would be, we're trying to put a placement between Michelle and Jeff also. A person of authority that's ranks higher than Jeff. That is, basically can separate those positions.
Can't we have deputy chiefs of different I guess, disciplines?
We can. I mean, there is one open deputy chief position if I don't go back into my deputy chief position, so.
I'm gonna fully stand by and caution our members too, is that. Yes, you can say that tonight, but we also as a board have to protect. The residents of the village in the sense of. That door is open to you as long as that language is in the contract that we have with it. So I mean, it's nothing personal. It's just a protection for our citizens is that. We have to leave that option open for the people until it's resolved by language of the contract. So that's my reason for thinking, why can't we have a deputy chief? That is going to provide aid to these administrative tasks that we need. And, you know, I mean,
But it's not,
you could have many deputy chiefs, what, 3 in our department?
We have two.
What, I mean,
And I'm not saying we can't. Like I said, I listed out 3 different options. I put an option that has assistant chief in there. I put an option that has deputy chief in there, and I have an option of just that administrative chief coming in, just the top step pay with no officer pay on top of it as options. to
all
point it
3 of
out.
these get what you need, it's just, it doesn't necessarily. So like if, right, if we got the deputy chief. It accomplishes what you're looking for. It just might not put,
Might not help with some of the stuff that we're trying to,
you and Jeff, I mean, let's
Yeah.
just, we know what we're talking about.
yeah.
And Mark, you're saying there might be a chance that with those titles that there might be,
I think we can protect ourselves with the current language that's out there in the contract. Should you obviously change back, we have an obligation contractually to provide you with that position. We would essentially, if we approve an assistant chief, we're essentially closing that door, but still owing you that opportunity. So then we would, if worst case scenario, you decide that for some reason life changes and chief is not your thing, we now have 2 assistant chiefs. That is my concern. And I think it should be considered.
Well, at that point, we changed one of the deputy chief's positions into a 24/7 position and we hire a regular chief. And everybody's back to where they were.
I guess a lot of changes.
You know,
I'd rather have them just.
I think you have some valid points, Mark.
I mean, I get
That's
the
a question I
functionality of it. I support that.
Yeah.
I understand changes.
Right.
But I also have a huge spot for protecting the potential liability.
But is there, anything that stops us from, revisiting the contract? We both
Well,
agree that-
I don't even think that's.
do we even really need to though? I mean, so let's say this goes, let's say worse happens. We hire a position, whether, it doesn't matter what it is, we hire a position. Michelle decides, hey, I just want to go back to what I was. I mean, this sounds insensitive, but don't we let go of the next lowest person? And quite frankly, they're gonna leave before we're gonna let them go because they're all leaving for other departments as we go anyway. I mean, our turnover is incredible. It's not because people don't like it here, it's because Western Lakes is paying 90,000 a year, Falls has got positions, Pewaukee's got positions. I mean, it's not gonna be a matter of, we're not gonna have these people for 5-10 years. We're gonna have them for 5-10 months.
But I guess, in that, I'd have to look at back at your contract, doesn't it specifically say deputy though?
Well, yeah, we put her back in deputy and we just move positions around.
So then we'd have a new chief, the current assistant, and then deputy, but.
Well, it's not, maybe we make it a deputy, I mean, but. If there's an assistant and then a deputy, I mean, that's what we guaranteed we do. I think there's ways, we're talking about protecting the budget. And I think we can do that. It doesn't mean that the decisions are easy, but. I mean, we did it in the highway once.
Are you willing to review the, contract and change as you go back to an assistant chief?
If I were her, I wouldn't.
Yeah. That's not- I guess, that's her.
Doesn't want to do this. Class or old position, then, that's a deputy. chief. But if we change the contract that says, if she makes that decision in the future, it replaces this. assistant chief that we- Is that fair, sound like liability?
What do we do with the current?
Yeah.
Exactly what the-
Can you do that?
Yeah,
I don't know what this fire commission.
but they're not at will. The firefighters? I don't believe so, correct?
There's different protections.
Yeah, yeah.
So you're now, now you're taking a representative position and eliminate. Creating a representative position to eliminate, sorry, a non-rep to a rep. I don't know that is not gonna cause a lawsuit.
Well,
Trying to figure out.
I truly believe that if this were to go south, and it's gotta be fun listening to us talk about your future without getting your input on this, sorry. But, if things were to go south. I mean, if things continue the way they're going right now, I mean, okay, let's be frank. And the next year, we're gonna know what's going on. You're either gonna be the chief or you're not gonna be the chief. That's what's gonna happen. Let's just go completely blunt here. We're not gonna have to worry about this for years. We're gonna have to worry about this until a decision is finally made. We know what things are gonna be finally. If at that point, your other contract. If you sign a contract to become fully chief, that other provision is going away. At that point. I think we can all agree on that, right? And then that nullifies this. concern. But until that happens, this is a potential concern. I do believe it gets handled with the fact that we have not been able to hang on to our full timers due to the fact that there is such high demand right now. I guess I do think there is liability, but I don't think it's as much as bad as what it seems. I don't think we're ever gonna get to the point of having zero liability. It's a risk assessment.
So last year during budget season, when this position was inserted into the formula, it created a whole new line of salary. How does that not?
I tried to add it. This one, I'm trying to. So back when Chief Brown was here, we still had 7 full-time people. Me and him were Monday through Friday. The other 5 are rotating. Once he left, we took his position and turned it into a 24/7 firefighter paramedic. What I'm asking is to turn that 6th firefighter paramedic that was essentially Chief Brown's shift and turn it back into an admin spot.
Which has not been filled.
So it's currently budgeted for, all the money is currently in the budget. It's not adding a position, it's just reclassifying with all monies that are in the current budget.
Linda, how are you feeling about this?
I know we need to do something. And I guess because you're the main person, you're the one that kind of tells us what's needed. We have to rely on your opinion. And that's what you get paid for. So I think we have to do something.
Paula?
Well, I mean, just looking at the numbers with the proposals you put in front of us, it's gonna save us some money. Shifting some of these positions. I understand what you're saying, Mark, that we don't want to kind of back ourselves into a corner. But I would be in favor of accepting one of these proposals.
I agree with what Linda said, that we have to go on. Michelle has come before and asked to get help. And she has been around a long time, and I think she knows what she needs, and I would go with the assistant fire chief.
I don't care what the position name is, I just want to get you help. I want to handle as many concerns as possible here. I'm trying to figure out a way to make that happen. Obviously, I think the risk is I don't think there's a significant risk here, but obviously Mark's right, there is. I mean, he's very smart, he knows. Don't tell your wife I said that. But I think the benefit outweighs the risk to me at this. Where you at, Mark? What do you think?
I totally get the need for helping you, and I hope that in my comments, it's not lost upon you that you need to help. I totally trust you. I don't know that putting this part-time, you know, it sounds like everyone's in favor of moving forward with at least the minimum per hour increase to get the staff. And I would not be in favor of doing them both at the same time. Until I could maybe see more of, like, I guess I'm stuck on the whole liability that's out there with. I mean, even if we had to let a full timer go, I don't know that that's fully legal. And I guess I would rather vet that with our legal counsel, because I mean, at the end of the day, we are lay people up here doing lay people jobs, and I think it would only be prudent of us to, we can still have the same feelings, but to have one more meeting to confer with our counsel before we walk into something that may potentially put us in a litigious situation. I would vote in opposition to it today. Not saying that that's my future opinion, but I think it's prudent upon us to at least seek our counsel's legal opinion on it. And if it did turn out to be true, well, okay, we waited 2 weeks, we waited 3 years by now. What's 2
12
years?
months,
Huh?
month.
A month, okay, I forgot what I'm, one meeting. Take that back. 3 years we waited, a month is not really gonna change it. So.
So we got the two issues here. We got the part-time paid on premise and we've got this. I'm in favor of moving forward the $17 an hour part-time premise. With what's being said is Linda, you're still,
I'm fine.
Paula,
Yes.
Mark?
I guess I would have one question on the 17. So is that gonna eliminate POPs at all? You know,
Like
what-
POCs?
Yeah.
Not at first. I mean, this is gonna be a transition. So I envision us having a 2 to 3 year transition period, because a lot of our paid on call members are gonna be fulfilling these part-time spots itself. So depending on if the board is gonna allow them also into WRS, we're gonna have to keep track of their hours, and they're not really gonna be able to do much time as a paid on call member, so we're gonna have a transition period in itself. So in the long run, we're gonna end up saving money in the paid on call portions and the interfacility portions, because it's just gonna kind of end up shifting after some of the years too.
I mean, realistically, what do you think to fill these part-time positions without treading in WRS? Because obviously, we all know WRS, once WRS, always WRS.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna say from my position, I don't care if they go into WRS anymore. We need bodies. And I don't want to tell somebody that we didn't have a body because we didn't want to pay WRS.
And I
it
know,
costs more money. but
I know
I'm
some of
putting that
them
out there.
some of the other departments do advertise that they get WRS benefits once they work the 1,200 hours. So I mean, that's just another thing that all the departments are advertising as a benefit, just throwing it out there, but we can watch it, obviously. So
Right, I guess that's the question, are we going to do?
I guess that's kind of for you guys to decide if we should be.
We currently do.
Right, that's what I mean.
We monitor it very closely.
But now aren't, with these new positions, are we going to be?
Well,
I guess the answer is yes, unless you guys decide they can enter WRS. Because we currently are watching it.
so the WRS is essentially 6.7 more on our end. It's 10 more on our end. Okay. So if they get into the Wisconsin retirement system, we are paying in, they have to pay in, we have to pay in, that's just how it is, once you're in, you're just in. For fire, okay. First town hall staff, it's 6, okay. I knew there was a 6 number in there, but, fine. Is the board, I mean, I guess, is this really covered in this tonight, or is this a separate item? I mean, we'd have to talk about this on something else.
Focus,
Part-time staffing, yeah, I guess would be covered, wouldn't it? Okay, just want to make sure we're legal on that. So if some people would fall into WRS, we're paying more because we're paying into the retirement system. We have historically tried to prevent that. It has definitely caused some issues and unable to use people at times. Do we want to continue this practice, or do we want to back off on this practice for these in relation to the part-time paid on premise we're talking about here? I think we're tying hands on it. I know it costs more money, but it's,
Do you have that projected at all? Because what are these hours on page 1? You're listing one part-time, 24 hours times 365.
That's
That's
just,
the position,
that's just the
it's not the
position itself. That's not like an actual person. That's just the body. It's not like a said person. It's hard to project who's all gonna want to pick up the hours and who can do however many hours, just because the paid on call staff we have right now, most of them do have other jobs, so they can only do maybe 1 day a week, or maybe some of them can do 3 days a week. It's gonna be hard until we get the hours out there of what people can do.
What is the WRS 1210? It's the hour rollover for WRS.
Well, yeah.
And you're saying right now, Michelle, that other departments are using that as a perk to join their department.
They're using that as a benefit to try and draw them in. If you work over 1,200 hours, you'll get the WRS benefit.
Essentially, that makes us 18.70 an hour if they fall into it.
Instead of 17.
And those would be the paramedics.
Yes.
Because paramedics would be the 17 an hour, and then the other ones, a firefighter EMT would be 14.50, and a firefighter advanced EMT would be 15.50 for their base.
They feel, Becky.
I guess it's for a paramedic, it's like $1, what, an hour more? Is that it?
Yeah.
I don't care.
I mean, one of the options is we approve this. I mean, 443, 088, and we could say it's 450 or whatever, but I mean, we'd say that's where your budget is. You're gonna have to figure out a way to stay within it. I guess I'd probably advocate rounding that off, but saying, this is your budget. If they fall into WRS, if they're not in WRS, but this is what we have available. And it's a big, I mean, it's a big step for us.
It's a huge step, yes.
This is as big as it's ever been. But this is your budget. If you get into WRS, just understand that this is gonna be where it's at.
Mhm.
I mean, would the board be willing to entertain that?
So you're saying approve it absent WRS?
I would,
Include it.
I would include WRS, but just cap the dollar amount that's gonna able to be spent, not say, hey, you just get. Not set an hour amount, but just a dollar amount. But then allow WRS. This is gonna affect other things though too. I mean, this isn't just gonna affect paid on premise. I mean, this is gonna be POC, this is gonna be a lot of other things. But at this point, I wanna get people.
Yeah.
That's for a year.
Right.
7 months. 5 months.
Mhm.
That really wouldn't- So,
Until when? The first? When does this
Yeah,
start?
this would be this is for a full year, but if we started July 1st, it would only be 5 months of this total
Yeah,
number.
there'd be a prorated number.
Prorated number,
Yeah.
okay.
And they're gonna qualify for partial benefit. too.
You don't have anything that, any other benefit that. is for free. Don't have it,
That's it.
and they would have to pay whatever their prorated is.
Insurance is at 30 though, isn't it? I think it's 30, isn't it?
But we have to pay somebody that was hours,
Well, we'd make,
and then they still, the person has to come up and pay that portion of their premium. They don't get the same, premium covered.
it's 70% at 30 hours. Essentially, or it's about 75 actually. So I mean, as far as if they're working 30 hours, they don't get the full benefit, they get a prorated amount, but my instruction would be, you don't allow that, you keep them under the 30 average per quarter.
I have spreadsheets already set up to track all that.
Yeah,
stuff,
I mean,
so,
that's not
yeah.
something we're not already doing.
Brings them over one time, doesn't take them all the 30.
And there are rules as far as expectation. If the expectation is you're not going to do that, I mean, they take that into account. It's not just, oh, you did this, now you're screwed. I mean, there's expectations that are assumed there too. But
Ask somebody to say.
probably not, but we just want to avoid that altogether and not. How's everybody feel about this proposal? So-
$17.
17 an hour, but allowing them to go into, I mean, avoid it, but if it happens, it's not the end of the world.
And keep Michelle at a budget and she works in her budget.
If everybody all of a sudden is in WRS, that doesn't mean you get more people, it just, or more dollars, this is.
Yeah, she works it. Somehow
you
you
gotta
do
work-
with your
figure it out.
budget.
Move money around, figure it out.
Mhm.
Haven't heard that before, have you?
Right.
That's at least 7 departments on the part-time staffing, now WRS.
I don't remember who all does. I know I wrote at least, I think, one in there that advertised it. I know what Western Lakes advertises that. Mhm. Yeah, all different ones have something different. Some of them have holiday pay, some of them weekend pay, some of them have interfacility pay and
Staff gets like extra help.
and WRS. Yep, some of Guanago too, yeah.
I mean, it's not even like we're offering, I mean, it's just required. It's
Mhm.
just, we put a restriction on you as far as,
Yeah,
and I'd say it would still be preferred to try and if it's possible, but if it's not,
mhm,
I mean, it's not even a matter of advertising it really, it's just how it is.
yeah,
Take a look at the village of Waukesha, although their numbers are 10, 1650 and 1750. Then for any certification, they get $1, $2 or $3.
And if you guys want to think about this one, like go ahead with the paid on premise, if everybody feels comfortable with that. You can think about this. This isn't gonna happen in the next week.
right, yeah,
So we can think about this. We could bring it up again because it sounds like we might be talking about 9E later too. We can talk about this one again. Everybody's got some time to think about it,
Okay.
okay? We don't need to throw it right in, make all these tonight here, but. So, does anyone have any other questions on the paid on premise? So we'd be funding it the rest of this year on ARPA. Is everybody okay with that? And then come budget time, we have to talk about how it's gonna look next year. Obviously, we've got some extra, we don't know what our revenue is gonna be, but we will know by that time. So that'll be a budgeting discussion. I would then make the motion to approve the proposed compensation, but I'm sorry, the paid on premise part-time fire department staff presence presented at $17 an hour. Prorated obviously this year. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Becky. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries 5-0. We'll get to 9E. All right, item D, discussion. And necessary action regarding
you.
thank you for your time.
status update for compliance orders issued to North 95 West 24-141 Highway Q, LSPT 153.995.002. I'm gonna ask that we table this one until the next meeting. They're just gonna table this one. I would make that motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Paula, there's no discussion on a table. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carries 5-0. All right, new business, I had said we were gonna put item 4C at the top, it's going to the bottom because I think everybody has waited long enough at this point. So item 9A, new business, discussion necessary action regarding request from Ron Height Pass and Bruce Hassler, H&H Auto for text amendment to section 21.08, parent B of the village code related to junk business regulations.
See some of you all, Michael Van Clement, Tax Brownson on behalf of the applicants. In the packet here, got ordinances, to amend what is section 21.08 of code, we'd be asking that the ordinance as presented be approved. Certainly open to any questions. This kind of derives from, right now, the way the code's written, if you have a salvage yard, you're required to have a substantial enclosure of at least 8 feet around the entire area that is the salvage yard. It's extremely burdensome, as you might imagine. And so what this new ordinance provides is that there should still be a substantial enclosure requirement. However, the plan commission has the flexibility with modifying or waiving the requirement of it being entirely enclosed. For example, if you have a large natural buffer between 2 lot lines or 2 property owners, it might make sense that that natural buffer would be sufficient as opposed to having a large enclosure added on top of that. So that is why we're here this evening. Certainly want to answer questions, but we look for this to get approved as presented.
So one of the things that we specifically stated, was that we wanted to require, some kind of delineation. If they come for a waiver that the delineation of some sort is valid and such. Would be required. Shall be. So that we need to add that back.
I believe that was in packet, right? It's part of the plans pack. Or the plan. The old one, yeah.
So that's, we're good with what's there. Does everybody know the history? Does everybody know the history behind this?
I do not.
So H&H Auto, this obviously is who's requesting this. They've been there a long time. They're right next to the quarry. They have a large fence on 2 sides and a large berm on the other 2 sides. Is this technically allowed by the code? No, but it made common sense said, yeah, back in the day. Because the other side of that is a 200-foot drop off. So our code doesn't allow this to be because we say you have to have a fence and a berm is not a fence. This allows us to use, for the plan commission to say, hey, well, there's a natural feature there, like a massive berm that was, maybe it's not natural, but a big berm has been put up. This, we feel this does suffice for a barrier, but it also says in here that we need to delineate where the lot line is. So they can't be going over because right now the berm is off, it's on Land and Stone's property set back. Well, they were encroaching on Land and Stone's property. That is no longer the case. That's been moved. And that's where the thought is that we'd have to have some kind of delineation of where the lot line is and they have to stay on their own property. And this,
I've got a picture here. If you want to see kind of.
Yeah, let's.
and that's what this is designed to do. It is kind of a unique situation, but it's also the only junkyard we have in the village.
The idea is you have to put a fence along the whole natural buffer. Nothing's there. So the compromise was, okay, we'll delineate the lot line so we know where it is. And so that we have the buffer there.
Yeah. And what are you gonna use to delineate that lot line? Just
So we will be submitting our application right after hopefully an approval this evening.
Okay.
It's gonna be large concrete barriers.
Oh, I know what they look like, yeah.
Yeah, so we're gonna put those all
Oh.
along the areas that.
Thank
covered
you.
by Some natural vegetation or berm, something, to help establish exactly what the lot line is, so there's no issue.
And part of the issue here too is to put a fence up on this portion would be extraordinarily expensive in today's numbers because it's rock.
Mhm.
I mean, it's essentially Land and Stone right there. And that made it that doesn't allow them, like, you might say, well, why didn't you just go to the zoning board of appeals? Well, what's the first thing you can't consider in the zoning board of appeals? Dollars and cents.
Hmm.
That can't be used, so they would not be successful in doing that, unless they have to come for a text amendment.
We'll work on it.
Okay.
So, and Kathy's just, oh, it's fine, what did you,
So in the paragraph where it says, plan commission may in a judgment waived or modified to use a section if it finds that the waiver of the modification of the section further public interest in the ordinance, but we want to put in there such waiver and modification. We want to make sure that the top part also says shall require a lot line. review. This first part. Just finding where.
The last sentence, as part of any waiver or modification under this section, the plan commission shall determine the type of lot line delineation, which may include the installation of landscape fencing, bollards, or other method determined by the plan commission.
I think Mason wanted to see if there was another reference to that it shall require a lot.
we want to just, we don't want to just let that up to the plan commission? I mean, we want to have something there, but I mean, it's, one would hope the plan commission would also see it that way, but. Is everybody, I mean, what are you feeling on this in general, first of all? I mean, if somebody's, if we're against this, it's no point of talking about this at this point, but
I think it sounds like common sense.
Linda,
Common sense.
Mark,
I agree.
Becky? Okay, so we know this is where we're going here.
So, and it says part of any waiver or modification in this section, the plan commission has certain types of lot line delineation.
I mean, that's stating that they have to have it. Plan commission shall determine the type of lot line delineation.
Flexibility is in how.
Yeah. I feel pretty good with this.
Okay,
Board feels good with this.
yes.
Yeah.
Any other discussion?
Mm-mm.
Mike, anything else? I'd make the motion to approve the text amendment to section 21.08 parent B of the village code related to junk business regulations as presented.
I'd second.
Second by Paula. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none are heard. 5-0.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Item B, discussion necessary action regarding requests from Christine Cole for an extension to meet compliance order issued on May 8th, 2023. So awake,
Very interesting. You know, I
and we
mean,
do this all the
a
time.
little boring sometimes, but very interesting.
We try as a village.
I think a lot of people should come here to learn what the hell really happens here.
We are published on.
It's amazing. You
We're not
know,
in the top 10 in the area on YouTube though, which really blows my mind. People have
Okay.
insomnia, I'm sure we can help.
so you received our letter
Mhm.
and real estate's letter. So I'm just curious on what's your thoughts?
Everybody familiar?
So the only thing we have board has to do is give an extension.
And
They cannot waive it.
Right.
Thank you.
well,
So if you have it, you are asking for an extension of time.
well, we're not really sure on that one, and the reason being is because we put an offer in a building. Again. So of course, now, we have to go in front of another city. If it's passed, we're in. If it's not passed, we'll keep looking. We've been looking since last September when you guys turned us down. So, you know, we keep looking at buildings, keep looking. I mean, they led us to one that literally was, they cleaned porta potties there. It was disgusting. And they want exorbitant amount of money. So anyway, the good thing is, we think it's gonna be passed. Our lawyer thinks so. Our realtor thinks so. We're praying because it's a very nice building.
So we need you to ask for a specific amount of time.
Let's just go 6 months because who knows?
We could do 60 days. 90 days.
Yeah, we'll know by then. Yeah, I mean, this one we close August 31st if everything goes through.
But I just want to be sure I understand, or we're understanding also. We gave her a 30-day to stop the work. The work that's not allowed in that, during that area. She's
My
asking-
property is listed as M2, it's industrial. Well, we didn't build that building. So that's not here nor there on the property line.
So if we give an extension, be giving an extension to allow this business for that. Just wanted to make sure you understood.
And this is somebody's livelihood.
So the request, she requested 6 months. I
Just
can't,
in case. Well, how about September 1st? Because we should be closing hopefully August 31st. You know, and if you want me to come in and let you know for sure if we got the building or not. So,
so usually the only way we have granted something that long, right off the bat, has been like, it's been winter and you can't, there's a car in the middle of something, you can't get it out of there because it's winter or frozen in. There's effects there.
well, we find that the buildings are starting to open up. You know, I mean, you guys turned us down last September,
Yeah.
and we've been looking ever since. So we look through the winter and we have a great realtor. It's Judson, they're a commercial property. So,
Just so you know, she said that she wasn't in our jurisdiction at that time. That was. We made a recommendation. Recommendation, but it was the county that actually. and
Right.
This is our first, that's why.
and if we would have had a lawyer there, none of this would have
So-
happened.
Just want to make sure you understand why that is just suddenly, last September. And suddenly you give her a 30-day notice. You got a complaint.
Right.
Process. So, prior to that, the last complaint was dealt with at the county. Now, Berlin is our responsibility. And it
Oh.
falls into that.
Okay,
You are responsible. That's why it's all coming forward.
I have wonderful neighbors, city people. I've lived in my home, July 1st, it'll be 49 years, and I have never had to deal with people like my next door neighbors.
so I just want to say this. I think you've got some sympathy as far as trying to progress with this. Don't ruin it.
I'm just saying the truth.
Sure. Where's everybody at? So the request is 6 months. I don't think that's gonna.
Well,
happen.
that's fine.
Sure. Let me just talk to them for a second. Give me a second, all right? So the request is 6 months. Where's everybody feeling? What is it proper? Kathy's saying possibly 60 days, revisit it. I mean, we could do 30 days and revisit it. We've done. There's all different things we can do here. What's everybody's feeling? Mark, do you have somebody?
Well,
Could
60
we do
days.
90 days?
We'll sit.
I guess, here's my position on it. I get it's a livelihood, but we also know that it's not. Fine, right? Knowing that it is incumbent upon you to become compliant. Does that mean you
We're
have to-
trying.
hold on. if that means you have to temporarily move your business while you search for,
You can't move car lifts and all this
Ma'am.
machinery. But this is
Ma'am.
silly.
Mark is talking right now.
that is not of our concern.
Right.
That is your concern. Our concern is the entire village and you becoming compliant with the current rules that are on the books. Your business decision to continue is on you. Your business decision to temporarily relocate is on you. Your business decision to comply and move your business somewhere else, that's upon you. We have to make the decision on, is 60 days appropriate? Okay.
Right.
How many neighbor complaints have we had against this? Was it the one that was just for the squealing tires?
The entire.
Do you have any assurance that is diminished?
That's diminished. You know, and really what the police officer said was there was a bang. That was the noise that they complained about. And my son wasn't on the road. So, you know, I
And
can't go back. I
here's
can't go
my-
back.
I'll just stay in my position to move on with this. I think 60 days is appropriate, but I am not in favor of coming back to 60 days to hear that you guys were unsuccessful with a realtor. And you need to continue to search for the property. I'm gonna have no sympathy at that point, and I'm gonna say, it's your business decision to
Right.
choose to legally operate in our village.
Right.
That's, we're gonna have to deal with different patterns. So,
Okay.
Paula,
I'd agree with Mark.
I agree with them too.
Becky,
60 days is fine with me. Perfect.
Supervisor Moon, would you like to put that into a motion?
I'll make a motion to grant, extension of 60 days from, I guess, should we be worried about meeting time?
August. August 9th. That our meeting.
Right.
That's the Wednesday.
And by then we should know. It looks good.
When we ran into this last time, we have to know that it's not.
That's- So that would, 60 days would be beyond the next meeting.
Right.
So we just identify a date maybe? So identify. You want to do it August 8th?
I think we could still do it in August. I mean. Just going upon,
Well, technically, it doesn't matter. I mean, you could do the date afterwards. They would have to come back and request another extension, which is the right. Doesn't mean we're gonna grant it, but it would be a right. By the end of that date. So it would, that's why I could potentially push it in the next month. I guess I would say the 8th.
yeah, I'll make the date August 8th.
And
We're
that's
setting,
another Wednesday, like,
that's setting the date as a Tuesday, August 8th. I'll second that for discussion,
Okay.
so. So we would be setting the date as August 8th. You would have to come in compliance by August 8th,
okay,
okay?
yeah, that sounds,
So what that does is it
Perfect.
gives you the ability to request another extension. I don't,
okay. Well, hopefully.
I don't think it's gonna
we'll be in the
happen, but
building.
just you have the right to do that.
Right, okay,
We don't revoke that right to do that. Doesn't mean we're gonna approve it,
Right.
but then that would come to the board then on the 9th. So that's a pretty quick turnaround.
Okay.
And I would direct staff that
and
if we don't know by the 4th of August, you automatically put this as an agenda item for the 9th.
So if I contact you and let you know that we did get the building, then I won't have to, okay,
Yeah, you just
All
said,
right.
your requirement at this point is to come into compliance by the 8th. You
okay,
don't have to tell us. We just,
It makes sense. You get into the time.
all right, I will. Okay, sounds great, thank you.
Thank you.
all right, so motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries 5-0.
Okay.
Item C, discussion necessary action to approve resolution 2023-03 to approve 2022 CMAR report.
Okay, so this is something action that is required, for us for the sanitary district.
Mhm.
Did you want to speak up?
No.
Did you want to speak up?
You will? Oh, yeah.
Good evening. Every year, the sanitary district, Lisbon Sanitary District #1 has to file a report with the DNR called the CMAR. And that CMAR report is, you have a draft of it in front of you, it's ready and prepared to be filed. To file it and be officially finished, it needs a resolution from a governing body approving that the CMAR is prepared correctly. Whether the Village of Lisbon as a utility will have a similar report going forward. I really don't know. We haven't asked yet, but the data that they ask for a sanitary district is usually a little bit different than what they ask for the utility. So it's a pretty simple report. We prepared it, or I prepared it in conjunction with Don Neitzel of Kunkel Engineering. He provided the engineering information. I prepared the financial information. So it's there for, we request you approve the resolution that was drafted, and then we can go online, indicate that it was approved, the resolution was approved, and then we'll be compliant.
It's due July 1st, isn't it?
Yes.
Questions?
We have to do it every year.
Pretty basic.
Yeah, it is.
Did you look at it, Linda? You're
Mhm.
satisfied with it?
Yes.
Any discussion? Hit it, Linda.
I make a motion, we approve the CMAR as it is presented by Mike Sargent. It is due July 1st.
Moved by Linda, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mark. Any discussion? Can't believe there isn't a big discussion on this. This is such an exciting thing. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Sorry, Mike, I tried to get you some airtime.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Mike.
Appreciate you, Mike. Item D, discussion necessary action regarding creation of job description for assistant fire chief and applicable pay range and recommendation to the fire commission regarding the same. Seems like we just talked about it.
Yes.
The only other thing we didn't really talk about was the job description itself. Basically, it's just taking the last known up-to-date job description, and I have just some minor changes in red for the job description portion itself.
Fine, we're at. Yeah, right.
Oh.
So what is everyone's thoughts on this one? Mark had stated you'd like to get some
Yeah, I
advice
think
from
it's.
council.
Legal counsel.
Is this something you'd be willing to approve if legal counsel approves it? Or is it something you wanna bring back?
No, I'd rather.
How's everyone else?
You can table it then.
Yeah, I would agree with Martha's dot our i's and cross our t's.
So I'm gonna ask the question we haven't asked. How does this affect you for the next month?
Well, the same that it has been the last 2.5 years.
So is that an acceptable thing for the next month, or is this going?
I'll get through. We'll get through.
Okay.
I mean. Realistically. What is the timeline for this? It's gonna have to go to the fire commission. They'll have to approve it. They're gonna have to put out a recruitment. Probably hire. Somebody to do recruiting or. How do they do that?
Yeah, there's gonna be a process and there's gonna be some time. I mean, I get it 1 month, but we need help. So whatever is gonna get us there the quickest, honestly.
I mean, this position. Being that it's June 14th, we're not talking like this position that proved the night's gonna be in a month in the saddle.
No,
But it will delay the process from starting another month. Could we, I mean, I guess looking at this job description and, job description be affected by the the legal aspect. I mean, do we wanna, do you wanna hold off even talking about assistant fire chief versus deputy fire chief? Or is everyone okay with the description, I mean, the changes that have been made in here, obviously the accountability one is nothing, but,
Yeah,
the biggest thing is we changed from paramedic required to paramedic preferred, correct?
Yeah, and then the other stuff just more aligns with what we currently have with some of the staffing.
There's not a ton of changes here to the job description. I mean,
Yeah.
whether or not we hire for this position, are we okay with the job description? I just don't wanna have that come back again.
so why does the position do a slash if they're different? positions? Because I guess reading in the position summary, it identifies, it doesn't even delineate between deputy and assistant,
Because it
it
just,
just goes with.
more of
associate.
a, this is more of a broad spectrum, job description itself. There's other duties and responsibilities that are given to all of the officers in-house that's assigned by the fire chief itself, which is why there's certain things under like number 18, under 19, assists the fire chief in any matters requested of him or her, performs other duties as assigned or required of him or her, because some people are good at some assignments, some people are good at others, so some things are shifted within the officer corps itself.
Fully appointed by. For part-time, if I'm reading correctly, it's the Lisbon Fire Chief slash approved by fire and police commission. It's the part-time way, but appointed by the fire and police commission slash approved by fire chief.
Part-time, we don't necessarily go to fire and police positions.
Usually a letter is written to the fire and police commission, they at least review it for any of the, because even for like this last one, I gave a letter to the fire and police commission for those that went to lieutenant and to captain. So it works the same for the different positions for paid on call. So they at least review the process that we went through for those promotions.
So if it's a part-timer, they don't necessarily approve it, they just review it. But if it's a career position, then it is appointed by the fire and police commission and approved by the fire chief.
Mhm.
What's the reason? Why do we have a lesser process for part-time?
I guess I would have to look back a little bit more on the history of it itself. On it, to be honest.
Just always done it that way.
Yeah,
Whether it's right or wrong, that's how we've done it. So I guess we gotta find out.
Yeah, it's just weird. I don't know why. It could be the same position, whether part-time or full-time. Just seems a lot of it's different.
I guess maybe get some clarification. Let's get some clarification and make sure we're doing that correctly. I think that's all the departments are doing it though, but
yeah,
I know Butler does it that way, but they're a company though.
they're a company.
It's different. As far as the verbiage change, as far as going from paramedic license required to preferred. We okay with that in this position?
I guess that was kind of a question I had was. So somebody who's gonna be supervising the person with that requirement doesn't have any, may not have any knowledge of what they're supposed to be doing.
My thought process is at least if one of the top has, paramedic, you can still effectively run and oversee your EMS program itself. They don't necessarily need to be paramedics. Because you already have command staff that has that level and can oversee that.
But then you would have another instructor there though, too, right? You'd have two helping somebody. Why wouldn't you?
I guess I mean. I would ask for. It just seems logical in the sense of. Like duty number one, respond when scheduled for duty to emergency calls. Well, we would essentially be putting somebody on the books that can't respond to a paramedic level call.
Well, you don't know if they truly are a paramedic level call or not until you get there and assess the situation, if you're looking at paramedic level.
Our
It's
goal,
just responding to emergency calls.
our goal is to have a paramedic on the ambulance, it just might not
Correct.
be this person.
Yeah,
So. Like a scenario might be, the person was a paramedic. But no longer carries a license,
mhm.
like Doug. Doug never renewed, did he renew his license?
Not as of yet. He still
So-
has a few, couple weeks. Technically.
Right. Get on it. Not that he's going for this position, but I mean, there could be a situation like that if you're, because it's majority of this is supposed to be. Clerical, not clerical, but I mean, you're gonna be doing, this is the Michelle, the new Michelle.
Yeah, and
Essentially.
there could be a lot more involved in just EMS. I mean, there is a lot more involved in EMS. There's a lot more involved in creating and policies and SOGs and command staff and fire scenes, and it's not all just EMS driven.
Because our
There's a
deputy
lot.
chief right now. Position does not require paramedic either, right?
Well, that's why we want to change some of the verbiage, because this also entails the deputy chief. 'Cause this
Also,
is
right now it does, but
correct.
so,
That's another reason why we want to change it, because this was the last known one. I'm just trying to update it.
and our, currently, we do not have that. Right. But this doesn't change the fact that we want to have a paramedic on every ambulance that's going.
No, this doesn't, no. Does not change that.
As long as our, for me, as long as our goal is to have a paramedic on every ambulance.
Mm.
I'm okay with it, especially since we kind of need to change this if we want to keep some people
Yes,
that we currently have employed.
How long does it take for an EMT or future EMT to go through school to get a license?
all different, all of them are different.
Okay, because here it says, holds a valid Wisconsin license for EMT.
To be promoted or into an assistant chief or deputy chief. So they can't be like a brand new person and have an officer title, because they need to have education behind it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I was, yep, thank you.
Yeah.
You still want them to, is your feeling still, you prefer them to be a paramedic?
I guess why are we less,
I'm sorry, what?
why are we less than?
Yeah,
Because like I said before, like, as long as I feel, as long as one of the top two for sure have paramedic, you can still effectively run a good paramedic program. Seeing as I don't think the one necessarily right underneath me needs to be, but also, like you said, we have current employees in the deputy chief role that do not have paramedic too, that were promoted previously.
So we had to require them previously, but we promoted people.
Yes. Answer is yes.
Years prior, yeah, people were promoted to the deputy chief role, not being paramedics. And there have been multiple, unfortunately. I think it was something that was overlooked, and talking about this in itself, we brought up just updating it. Which is why we updated it.
Is there any standard that requires it?
For this position, no, that's all, it's different across all the departments and kind of what they require for the different levels.
There's history of, in the department of hiring people in positions and that didn't have the paramedic level. With the understanding that they had to become paramedic level or meet different criteria.
Mhm.
And I'm assuming that's, I mean, I think this just got lost and nobody looked at it. to be
Yeah,
honest.
I think it was overlooked.
Um, I think with the lack of personnel out there too. I would prefer not to lose our current deputy chief,
Yeah,
because I mean, he's not going to get paramedic, I'm assuming.
no.
So I guess why don't you just make two job descriptions then and require, instead of combining them, why don't you just make them two different ones?
There have been, when I went in all of Chief Brown's old files that he had all these master copies, I found the most updated one, and this was the most updated one that had them combined. And I wanted to update the most recent one, but I can go back further and grab the two separate ones and then try and update those with the new verbiage. I just grabbed the most recent one that was used for the positions.
But yeah, I guess I'm just thinking, why not separate them out? The position hasn't.
They
the position
basically,
hasn't been, so why not start there?
they've always been there and they have them separated, but again, it's more
Not the.
generalized.
Assistant. The assistant chief is better. For how long?
But, well, like I said before, Dave Mason was the last assistant chief, but it wasn't a full-time position. It was a paid on call, part-time position.
Let me, I'll go ahead. Assistant fire chief, full-time as presented to us. We've never had that.
As far as I'm aware. I mean, we've had a full-time career captain. I was a career captain. I was a career deputy chief. I was a career lieutenant. We've had career lieutenants. Not as far as I'm aware from my 20 years. I mean, it could have been. I don't think so. I don't think
I remember. Mason was
Mason was not. Bob Shelock was before that, but he definitely was not.
that's all before me.
Yeah, but he definitely was not a full-time
Think how long ago
person.
that was.
That's showing my
That's what
time on the
I-
department too.
Is the fire chief required to have their.
Yes, currently, yes.
And I will tell you, when Doug was hired, he didn't.
No, he had to go get it.
He had to get it.
He had to sit in the class and get it. Yeah.
That
Yeah, I
was
mean,
part of it.
my personal feeling on it is if we're gonna have a full-time position, why not require it? If we're gonna have a part-time position, I get it, they're, you know, they don't have to be a firefighter both somewhere else. They may step into this as a part-time job. I think the assistant chief should have it. Deputy chief, if it's gonna remain a part-time position, I would have to list them having it.
Is there
I
a
know
difference
there's-
in pay for, if you get the paramedic, is there a bump with that?
Usually not for the officer level positions. Officer level positions are usually that in itself. When you're talking about the regular full-time members, that's where you have the fluctuations and maybe some of the licensure levels itself. I can tell you there are a lot of other departments that have an assistant chief level that don't require paramedic, but then there are some that do. So it's just,
Is there a hindrance to the hiring process that we do require?
Or the candidate pool.
Small, yeah.
yeah, it's gonna be definitely a smaller candidate pool.
But don't we want the best person? in it?
We can't keep people as it is.
I don't know.
Well,
what-
we'd
what is
probably
this
have to have-
position gonna
We
require?
honestly probably would have to have a
Nine-
better pay range as well to go along with that. To be perfectly honest, to get a better pool of people.
Just for my part, I'm okay with this as it's listed, as long as we have a paramedic on that ambulance.
Then there will be, yes.
I think we're gonna narrow this candidate pool down. I mean, we can't find. If you're looking for an assistant chief with a paramedic license, they're already got a job. We're gonna be finding if somebody older, like a Doug Brown.
I
Doug, you
mean-
listening?
No, I looked, there's only, yeah, no. No, but I mean, like, kind of a little off topic, Western Lakes itself was hiring starting lieutenants at $91,000 a year. So I mean, there's, assistant chiefs. I don't know.
And then you say they go to school then to go get their license.
For like the officer positions, most of the time they have licenses when they're coming in and they have other criteria behind their name.
Right, but I was just talking about the preferred thing that you were,
Oh, the paramedic.
yeah, paramedic. They
Yeah.
will go to school though and get one.
They would have to agree, we require it for them to hold the position and maintain a position.
Let's throw it in a bus in this, Kathy. You have an opinion on this. I know you do.
I-
Yeah.
I would, I'd like to see her get what she needs to. For administrative. I do not, I am not in favor of everybody on that fire department. That's where possible. Personal feeling. There's certainly the driver, and to sit in the back. Both of them. Think that if we can get somebody that can fill that role as part-time at that pay rate and you get it, give her some help. then what's the-
Is there a probation period? I didn't see that. Probation period?
Not really, I mean, for all full-time members, we've had like a 1-year probationary period. In itself encompassing, but there hasn't really been anything for the officers itself. We could fall it under the full-time, yeah.
Right, that's what I guess what I'm doing. If this is an external hire. There's nothing written in here about a probationary period because they're not being hired as a fireman.
That's something you look at it in.
Is that mystery standard?
Honestly, all departments probably do that all a little bit different too, with probationary periods. I mean, I guess I know that all departments do it different. Even just entry level firefighter, I know Waukesha has like a.
And
That's
I'm not
different.
dictating time. just saying.
Yeah,
I'd like to
I
see
think it's
that in
honestly
there.
all different now that I,
Essentially, this is written at this day one, they have status of. Well, there's no probation period.
I'm here for the.
I don't know I don't know what the department requires. What is?
for full timers, we do have a 1-year probationary period right now. For the rest of the POC staff, it's a probationary period until they create certain criteria or complete certain criteria, and then they complete a probationary exam, which we have the full timers complete too. Make sure that they obviously can do the stuff that we require the rest of them to do.
The fire service have a residency permit? I don't know the state.
I don't think it's legal.
What's that?
I remember, the legislature taking that.
Yeah.
So we'd like to see a probationary period added. But set the term of it would be determined by. Like have them bring something back to us to propose, or you,
Yeah.
Or a year.
Shall follow the full time.
Yeah, I don't think they should be any more or less.
Certainly have.
There might be something in our SOGs too, that I'm just not
so
thinking
just
off
make
the
it
top of my
consistent.
head, but yeah, I can double check that and then, yeah.
And then, okay, so
Yeah.
put that in there, separate. Two separate amount. Where are we at with, Linda, where are you at with the paramedic, not paramedic?
If Michelle says that it's, she can control it and she says she can, then it's okay.
Becky?
I'm fine with the way it's written.
Mark, you still prefer paramedic?
'Cause I guess I didn't see it in there, but in the absence of the fire chief, is the assistant, the fire chief.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't see the deputy chief position being the fire chief in absence, but
Yeah, I mean, it goes chief, assistant chief, deputy chiefs, at least in our county.
Yeah, if it's required of the chief and the deputy chief could be the chief in absence of, why not have it? I guess why does the chief? So
That's
why?
another question in itself. I mean, that's
Yeah,
what we've always
no,
had
If it's
here.
important for, if it's important for the chief position, why is it not important for the assistant chief?
I feel it's important for at least one of them. I know the feeling has always been that they should both have them, but I feel like at least one of them has them. You can still effectively run a good EMS program.
So I just kind of pull the board to see where people are at for paramedic, non-paramedic for this position. Linda and Becky were okay with it, not paramedic.
I mean, listening to what Michelle says, I would agree with that.
The preferred?
So Mark.
Yeah,
just made-
preferred, not required.
Mark had
yes.
just made a point that if the fire chief is not present, the assistant is the fire, just so you hear all the information,
Oh,
just so you hear it all.
okay.
I mean, I don't want,
Yeah, it's a president.
So would there be a problem with that then if there was a non-paramedic acting fire chief in a situation?
My point was, why is it required of her, but not the person that?
Well, there were, how many assistants would there be? Just one? No. Good question.
What's the percentage of you people now that have the license?
A lot less paramedics than the rest of the department itself. I mean, most of our full-time staff, there's 2 full-time staff that are in school right now. To get paramedic, but all the regular full-time staff that are on the ambulance are going for paramedic.
So there's nobody that actually has a license right now?
No, they do have license.
Oh,
Yeah, there's just 2 of the other 5 that are going through class right now.
right.
Yeah.
So what about leaving it preferred instead of required with the expectation that they will eventually get it because we want a bigger pool of people to be able to hire from?
what if you got? I guess for me personally, if you have somebody like Doug that, if you got an ex-chief that wants to take the position, they're not gonna go get it. There's
Yeah,
not going to
retired
be,
chief that wants to come in and do, this for so many years.
I don't want a green person. And I would personally want to get somebody that's got some experience, and I think you're looking at some,
So it's your opinion that if it was a required, it would be a much more difficult position to fill?
I think so.
What
Yes,
was
I
your-
think so.
yeah.
I really think so.
So, I'm just going off your last
Yeah.
comment. So a person hypothetically who applies for this and then does have paramedic is less likely to be experienced than a person who doesn't have paramedic.
Yes and no. I mean, it depends on where the person is and if they've had the license before and let it lapse. There are a lot of places that, someone could be a paramedic and they got into a chief role and they weren't expected to keep up their paramedics and they might have downgraded to EMT so that they could still be a licensed person on the ambulance. But again, they didn't want to keep up all the hours because, I mean, it's 60 hours just to renew paramedic every so many years in itself compared to 24 or whatever for EMT.
So
So,
I can respect, I totally understand that.
but yeah,
example
yeah,
because
lots of
They
years of
can still
experience.
administrate, they just can't.
And
Yeah.
my comment was more in reference to somebody that was gonna get a paramedic, like if we were requiring them to hire them to get a paramedic,
Oh,
somebody that is gonna do that is probably younger.
I see.
You're not gonna get somebody, I didn't articulate it well, but if you're gonna hire somebody with the expectation they are gonna get it. Younger is gonna get it, older probably isn't, or more experienced, they either had it already and they don't wanna get it again.
Mhm.
Or they may have it and they're fine with it. We may get somebody that has a paramedic license. I mean, that could be. I just don't want to require it. No.
Yeah, I would agree with not requiring it then.
5 years ago, probably have a totally different opinion.
Why?
Honestly, not gonna lie,
Why?
because there's a lot more people. Maybe 7 years ago, but I mean, in the past, it's an employee market still, not an employer market. And when it's an employer market, you get to dictate more things than when it's an employee market.
Well, and we're not talking about paying top dollar, right? Like, we're not gonna be.
We've never done top.
No,
dollar.
There's a scale.
Welcome to
Give and
Lisbon.
take, give and take.
We're getting a lot better.
you pay top. Gonna go in
So you asked about breaking it out. Do you want her to bring back both the assistant fire chief and the deputy fire chief? Have two separate, or just bring back these?
Spread them both up and let's get them approved. And then the question, you know what,
Yeah.
we had a legal question for that.
Yep, and then also the probationary period, and then after the fire chief. into the system.
Does this cover everything?
Yeah, what, is that gonna be a legal?
If any- And if anybody's got any other questions, direct them to Kathy. But let's bring some closure to this at the next
Okay,
meeting.
Agreed.
agree.
So. So we'll be looking to table this until the next meeting. Does anyone want to make that motion?
I'll make a motion table. Item agenda E, 9E,
D,
D and then E. Two separate.
till the next meeting. Is there a second?
I second.
All right, so we are tabling item D and E. E is discussion necessary action regarding recommendation of fire commission to begin search for hiring, which obviously we can't do because we haven't created a position. So that would be it. There's a motion and a second. There was no other discussion on a table. All in favor, say aye.
I,
Opposed, motion is passed for D and E as final. Yep. We want to just finish off this next one quick. We'll go back. No, we'll go back. Item F, discussion necessary action regarding 7/1/2023 to 6/30/2024 alcohol license renewals. This one I for sure don't want to forget. Combination of Class P licenses for Tamara Hoffman Wolfgram for Songbird Hills Golf Club, West 259 North 8700 State Road 164. Michael Patrick Lehman for Ironwood Golf Course, West 20 North 6166 Marine Drive. Robert Michael McDonald for Fairways of Woodside Golf Course, West 235 N8518 Woodside Road. And a Class B fermented malt beverage license, Robert Peter Shaluga for Sherwood Forest Bowman. Instinctors?
It's not instinctors.
It's supposed to be instructors,
Yeah,
That's their actual name.
instinctors,
we were members there. I don't remember being instinctors.
or 51 West 25 600 Walnut Road. Any combination Class A licenses for Daniel Joseph Roder for Quick Trip 973 at North 67 West 27619 Silver Spring Drive. Nicholas Eric Lane for Quick Trip number 1108 at West 260 North 9579 State Road 164. Oh, boy.
Rakesh.
Kesh Kanti Patel.
Mhm.
For
Really
County
pretty.
Line Liquor. 95 West 25901 Highway Q. Anthony Wayne Hawks for Casey General Store number 3710 North 56 West 22100 Silver Spring Drive. And a Class A and Class A cider license, only license. Amin Hamadan for Corey Mart Mobile, North 52 West 23206 Leafwood Road. All of these have passed.
Good to go.
We have no issues. Any questions or comments, or is there a motion?
I make a motion, we accept all as presented.
Linda to accept? Is there a second?
I'll second.
Paula? Any other discussion? All in favor?
I,
Opposed? Motion passes 5. Now back for C, which is appoint Kathy Nicholas and Orin Sumwalt as Lisbon zoning administrators. Kathy?
All right, so, it's written, properly on the agenda, is to appoint a Lisbon zoning. It could be me, it could be Orin, it could be Brian. It can't be the full plan commission and it can't be a elected. So those were the ones that we made a suggestion and I put them in one way or another. But we do need a zoning administrator in order to get the stuff in the number.
Could you describe the position?
Zoning administrator
Yeah.
Does they're the ones that would go out and check our zoning, somebody was breaking the zoning code, if they were. Or investigate it. Just wasn't sure if my.
So it's kind of similar what Brian's kind of doing. But-
Why do we need it now when we didn't, when we were a town?
Because we were under the county's. Shoreline.
Oh, that's right.
Requirements. Now that we are a village, we only have so many days to get this application in. Or we get scrutinized on every property that has shoreline on it. Or what, wetland on it, will get scrutinized if there's any buildings in it now, or any, want to get this in quickly. For all of our residents, so it's not. Not going, looking at every one of our floodlines and making sure our residents. And now is the floodline has raised and the building was there for 20 years. This also allows us to, this process also allows, get insurance, flood insurance. Without us doing this, they can't get flooding. So it's some really important part of getting this passed, but because we have not named in any meeting a zoning administrator, you can make it, Brian.
What would be essentially be the duties?
Warren thought that what is happening now was what now. Zoning was.
He only does that if someone complains generally, doesn't he?
Well, he also goes out when he's doing building permits. and
Well,
stuff.
sure.
But I mean,
Is he aware that he could be asked to do this?
be voluntold.
What?
Voluntold.
I'm keeping that one. That's a good one.
Well, no, I mean, we'd have to give him. It's essentially what he's doing, though, isn't it?
Yes. Warren said to me today, while we were having a staff meeting, really, they told them both our names are on, and that's, we only have one person. The hand was wrong. Brian, and he said, well, really, essentially Brian's.
What does everybody think?
I want to voluntold. I think that sounds great.
How do you pronounce that?
Voluntold,
Voluntold?
yeah.
Voluntold.
Voluntold.
Volunteer.
Instead of volunteer, you're
Yeah,
volunteer.
you're voluntold. That's great. I mean, does that make sense, Kathy? What do you think?
I think Brian's.
I think Brian would be okay considering he's already doing it.
If he's not, then I think you should do it.
Is it a position or a person?
We can change this at any time, right? I mean, so this is just
It's
essentially,
like you can change the meeting and take it off of Joe's plate and give it to somebody else, so.
How is he
I-
paid for
Not
this
the
then?
administrator.
we're already paying him to do it. He's already been doing it.
Exactly. So let him do it.
I make a motion to appoint BrianAlehafen as
Second.
the zoning administrator.
Second.
Second by Linda. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries 5-0. We do not need to do item 10, correct? You want to do item 10?
Yeah.
Okay. So
What are
now
we gonna do?
Motion.
Thank
We would
you.
need, so item
Thanks,
10 is
Michelle.
closed session, explained to Wisconsin statute 19.85 parent C for the purpose of considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, more specifically regarding treasury evaluation. Is there a motion to go into closed session?
Somebody motion to adjourn in closed session.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, roll call, please.
Excuse me, I'm choking on my own tongue. President Osterman,
Yes.
trustee Plotecker,
Yes.
trustee Moonen,
Yes.
trustee Quinn,
Yes.
trustee Beal.
Yes.
I know they're entering into closed session.
Just a moment to shut down.